Well, Jean Chapman from rural central North Carolina. And I met Father Bix 20 plus years ago at the gates of the School of the Americas in Fort Benning, Georgia. And have just always stayed connected with him. And he still comes sometimes to the School of the Americas. And I just think of him as a great mentor and friend. And Kathy Boylan, who's at the Dorothy Day Catholic Worker, who's also a friend. I was there recently. She had been out recently to Tacoma to see Bix. And he was organizing this trip, and he said, "Kathy, who else should I ask?" And she said, "Call Jean Chapman." He said, "Oh." So he called and left a message and said, and my phone message says, "Do something for peace today." And he said, "I'm going to do something for peace. I'm going to ask if you want to go to Jeju Island." So I listened to the message, and anyway, so I was given a free ticket by someone, and it was just absolutely clearly meant to be. It was. I had no expectations. I was grateful that Bix sent newspapers, the English papers to read, and that I got to see Ghost of Jeju. But it was just so clearly where life was taking me that I needed to know and understand, but I didn't need to worry about what was going to happen or just to be here.
Did you know anything about Jeju before this?
I did, because many people talk about Jeju, and I'd read, not details, but enough to know just the general idea, but not enough to be caught in the passion of it. Just a little outlined.
So since you've been here, what are your thoughts?
Their thoughts, and then their heart feelings, and the Tibetans say heart mind, all one. So it's all one. And you can't separate one from the other, because they're the facts of Jeju's history on this earth, its natural history. There's the facts of its sort of tortured history for more decades than we can count. There's the facts of what's happening now, the physical facts, which are all very important to understand. And then there's the heart-mind piece of how this place and this struggle has magnetically drawn some of the most remarkable people I've ever met, have been drawn here. Some are from here, some have come here from nearby, but drawn by the spirit of the place and the spirit of the struggle, the nonviolent spirit of the struggle. But one of Gandhi's students said that what he thought Gandhi brought to nonviolence was the concept of soul force, peace force, love force, that there is this immense force. And that's one of the feelings I hear, the force of the earth here, the force of the mountain, but especially the force of the people here, which as an American activist makes me feel like a real wimp, because we're really focused on taking care of ourselves, and that's not bad at all, because there is the dance of taking care of yourself and not being kind of crazy and aggressive because you're just so. But there also is this humbling presence and example of people who are giving their whole lives, and they're not giving their whole lives in kind of a dry, which happens in our country, I think, a lot, kind of a almost aggressive way, but are giving it in community and friendship and dance and song and creativity and art, and this astounding, I spent yesterday reading a lot of the back papers, and the astounding creativity and variety of things done here, the conferences they go to, the connections they have with people all over Asia and the rest of the world, the sewing, the children, the books, the libraries, the cafes, the co-ops, the peace centers, the teaching, the just astounding creativity. So it's a force, it's a soul force that is not as familiar to us in the United States, because I think we're just a little spoiled, and that's not a judgment or that we're bad. It's just that our economic situation and our freedom from war in our homeland for so long has, I think, just had something to do with how we are. And again, that's not a guilt thing, it's just a fact. But I think it's one of the things we can learn from being in a place like this, where people have experienced so much horror in their backyards and are experiencing that, and have learned to do this, to carry on the struggle, and have downs and depressions, and have learned to carry that on and be nurtured by community and friends and all those things we were talking about. And to know that we have a gift to bring too, not with how to do things or our superior ways of organizing, but just by being present and joining in what they're doing and bringing that knowing that all people who come here from outside Jeju do, of people knowing they're not alone, and people around the world know what's going on here and want to come and stand with them, even if just for a few days. Very grateful to be here. Very, very grateful.
Bichsel. I'm from the Tacoma Catholic worker, also a Jesuit priest. I'm down here with 9 other people from our area of the country, from the South Puget Sound. And coming back, I think, because of the experience that Gilberto and I had last year about just experiencing the resistance here. I've never been so touched or inspired by a faith community working together, where you've got the villagers of Gangjeong village, priests, nuns, many coming from the mainland, and the bishop, who's an inspiration for the movement. And so it's been just deeply, deeply inspiring to me, wanting to return to feel that again, or to be in touch again with that great spirit of resistance. I call it Eucharistic resistance. And I would deeply recommend this for Americans who have lost hope that anything can change, to come here and let their hearts be touched by these people who live out what they believe and live it out in a very deep, radical, loving way.
Gilberto Perez is my name, and I am a Buddhist monk on Jeju Island. It's a Japanese order. I came to Gangjeong village. It's a Jeju Island, South Korea. Last year in October, Father and I, stayed here 3 weeks, and it was so inspirational that we had decided that we'd do a walk here, a peace walk around the island, or come back, and that when we got to ground zero and back to the States, we would try to practice the Eucharist, the Mass at the gate. We would try to do dancing, try to liven up our sense of actions at the gate, as opposed to being so serious and morose and just doing the same thing over. But put some more lively in song. We have done more songs now at the gate, and now that we have 10 here, you can see there'll be 10 witnesses to go back and experience and share and witness the same things that we did a year ago, which was very inspirational for us. I would come here again, maybe with 100 people the next time, and possibly do a walk. As already I've heard that we will be deported 3 times, but we're not worried. And I know that Oliver Stone wants to do a film here. His wife is Korean. So the excitement, I was just, we were talking about Jeremiah the other day with one of the critics who's been jailed and fasted many times, and he's become, he said, more radical. And he changed his name from Nicholas to Jeremiah, which is appropriate. So this radicalizes one to be more involved, socially engaged in people around the world, especially those who are not familiar with the amount of nuclear weapons that we have in the United States, particularly the Bangor nuclear submarine base. So for that reasons, I've come back with Father Bix as my little Buddha. He is my little Buddha I take care of, and the joy that he brings. And last night he went to sleep singing "We All Live in the Yellow Submarine." So that's why I come back, for Father Bix. Thank you.
My name is Rodney Harold, and I'm from Seattle, Washington. And I first met Bix over 40 years ago and have been organizing as a community organizer, and have been organizing with him in ways, first in Seattle and then at Ground Zero. a year ago when Bix and Gilberto came, I really was interested in coming, but my brother was dying at that time, and I wasn't able to make it here. So when I heard he was planning another trip back, I said, by all means, I want to come and join you. I am concerned about all of the peace and justice and environmental justice and economic justice issues. Deeply trying to find a way that we can be more effective in a loving and nonviolent way. And I think it is in solidarity around the world that this will happen, so that when we have connections here across the Pacific, connections throughout the United States, connections in Europe and just around Africa and so forth, it's that solidarity I see is growing and is going to be very powerful and takes time, and every step of the way is important, and this is the current step.
Okay. Hey, I'm Melissa. So I live at the Catholic Worker with Bix next door, and I moved into the Catholic Worker like 6 months ago, and just heard about the island and everything that was happening through Bix over the last couple weeks and couple months, and he was talking to me about it and telling me that he was going, and I was really interested, and it's my first travel trip and like protest experience, so it's been really interesting. What else do you want me to say?
What do you think about what you've seen?
What have you seen?
Yeah, as
do you
just
feel?
seeing the like solidarity and the unity amongst the villagers and amongst people that are coming from really far away and helping them, it's been really powerful. And I think like during the mass we start off and it's like really solemn, and then it like ends in like joy and celebration, and that's been a really powerful thing.
What's your
seeing that
impression
part.
of the women on the island?
Oh my goodness, the women. They're just so strong. I think it's really powerful to see them as like heading up a lot of it. And they're like the main, like they're like on the front of doing everything, and they like make sure everyone is cared for, and they're like right in the face of everything. Oh, it's just really good.
오늘 바리사이들은 예수님께 질문을 합니다. 하느님 나라가 언제 오느냐? 그들도 기다리고 있었습니다. 여러 강대국으로부터 식민 지배를 받았던 그들이었기에, 정치의 독자성을 상실했었기에, 그로부터 해방되기 위해 종교의 독자성이라도 이루려고 성권을 재건하고 율법을 강조하며 하느님 나라를 기다리고 있었습니다. 하느님 나라가 언제 오느냐? 이 질문은 이스라엘이 언제 강대국으로부터 독립된 하나의 나라로 건설될 수 있느냐? 이 질문과 같은 것입니다. 기원전 6세기에 바빌론 침공으로 인해 식민시대가 시작되고 그 후에 해방을 맞이하였지만 주변 강대국이었던 페르시아 왕국과 알렉산더 제국으로부터 또 식민 지배를 받게 됩니다. 그 후에 알렉산더의 죽음으로 해방을 맞이하였지만 해방과 함께 혼란의 시기를 겪게 됩니다. 왜냐하면 독립왕조를 꿈꿔오던 그들이 혁명으로 독립왕조를 이루었지만 그 혁명의 출발점과 다르게 그 결과는 이스라엘의 정체성을 찾기보다는 권력에 대한 욕구가 더 큰 현상으로 변질되었기 때문입니다. 그래서 천신만고 끝에 얻은 독립왕조는 또 산산이 무너지고 말았습니다. 권력의 자리에 서로 앉으려고.
Hi, I'm Noella. I studied and stayed in the state for 8 years, and I came to Korea in 8 years. How I get into this project or activity was there was a friend who's going to Catholic Church in North, South, part of Seattle, and he actually was asked by his Catholic Church's priest to introduce some person to interpret for Father Bix in Korea, and that's how I got into this project or activity. And actually, I thought it was a very nice. It would be a very nice experience for me because I was never involved in any activism in Korea, even though I'm a Korean, and even, also I think like there are so many people who think that this activism is ridiculous, but I'm not the one, and I thought it would be nice for me to actually go and see actually what happens in reality. And
So what do you think of the people here on Jeju?
Jeju, they're
The
strong.
people you've met.
They're strong. They're strong, and
she wanted to look at pictures.
people are strong, and things happening here is very sad. I feel like it's a tragedy because only very few people are knowing about the truth and the consequences of all these projects done by Navy and done by governments in Korea and in the state. Also, it was very hard to know the truth just by looking or reading newspapers or just like visiting some blogs online. But good thing is I could learn a lot by meeting a lot of people here and talking to them. Somehow I think that it would be easier for me to live in this country if I didn't know all this, because it's heartbreaking thing. But at the same time, I think people, like Korean citizens, should know all these truth.
Yeah.
Well, I would say facts over truth. Facts, because truth can be like it depends on people. I see this as a truth, but somebody can see that that's not a truth. So I think people should know about facts happening here and consequences, and also U.S. citizens should know about this, and then they should be more responsible for these things, because even though this project is done by Korean government, I feel like U.S. pushed a lot, and Korea is less powerful than the U.S. So I think at some point Korea government had no power to like refuse for this base. So as long as people are awake and seeking the facts, I think we can get over this, even though it's not going to be in like a year or two, but eventually I think it's going to be overcame, and we can have
That's why I was wondering.
a like piece of world, just like Jeju's kingdom.
It wasn't doing that.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
My name is Sonia Wentz, and I'm from Olympia, Washington, and I'm a mental health therapist. Some of the organizations I'm involved with are the Rachel Corrie Foundation for Peace and Justice, and I'm on the board. And have traveled to Gaza, to Palestine, West Bank, Gaza, and Israel. 2 times I work with the Gaza Community Mental Health Program. I also work with the International Trauma Treatment Program, a volunteer-based group in Olympia, where we work with clinicians overseas who live in areas of conflict and war. And we also have a program where clinicians come to Olympia and for 3 months in the fall, and they create their own trauma program based on their own cultural needs. I was here. I came to Jeju Island, or to the mainland, almost 2 months ago, to meet with a trauma center in Gwangju. My partner came along to give a talk, participate in a talk related to the university in Gwangju on alternatives to capitalism. And while there, we met lots of different people, and I heard about Jeju Island, and I heard about Gwangju and the naval base. But our schedule was so busy there, we didn't get time to come to Jeju. So as we were leaving and flying away from Seoul, I mentioned to my partner, "Oh, we missed Jeju Island." Well, synchronistically, just a week after I was home, I was presented with the opportunity to come back with Father Bix and the Catholic Worker, and to come here on the delegation and to support the activists here in Gwangju, trying to protect the island against this ongoing construction of a naval base. And so my impressions about, I'm speechless.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely speechless about the character of the people here, the intensity, their perseverance, their reverence for the land. I visited the sacred sites. I'm particularly interested in the women and the strong feminine, because as a woman who's aging, we often are unseen because of our age. We no longer fit the profile of a young, vibrant woman, and that can be difficult. But here on the island, I get the sense that these women are strong, and they are in their bodies, and they are alive, and they're just amazingly vocal, confident, and kind, and filled with compassion. And we've been treated so wonderfully here, and I've been totally engaged with our program, and I'm filled with wonderment.
이 바당 저 바당 내 싹바당도 우리 바당 이 바당 저 바당 개구름지도 우리 바당 물러나라 물러나라 해군들은 물러나라 몰아내자 몰아내자 삼성 대림도 몰아내자 그럼 네 파이트맨 할방울이 솟아나고 그럼 네 일대에는 붉은 발송기가 놀고 있어 평화로운 우리 마을 우리 힘으로 지켜내요 태국이지 몰아내요 태평평화 만들어보자 나선한테 길이길이 후손에게 물려주세 우리 모두 힘을 합쳐 우리 마을 지켜내자
My name is Elizabeth Murray. I'm a former Deputy National Intelligence Officer for the Near East, retired from the government, turned activist. I'm now member in residence at the Ground Zero Center for Nonviolent Action, and I was honored to be invited by Father Bill Bichsel to come to Jeju for peace and solidarity activism with the local villagers of Gangjeong village who are facing essentially a violation of their own land and sovereignty. They're being forced to yield to a naval base that they've been deceived about. In fact, I just learned this morning when I went to watch the women divers of the village that these women who are really the providers of the village, they fish for all the seafood and provide for their families, that they were deceived by government officials that their fishing activities, their livelihood would not be affected. Many of them were paid generously, and they have come to regret their decision as they've seen that the government deceived them entirely. The silt and the pollution from the construction has affected their fishing, and they're now being forced to go out farther and farther to do their daily catch. The money that they were paid, they've now spent or given to their children or used for various things, and they're now being intimidated into silence by the government, which is saying, well, we've paid you off, so you have no right to go off and speak against the base, and if you do, we'll come after you. And I learned this information this morning from local villagers and activists who have been following this closely. And evidently this is just a reflection of the kind of deception that unfortunately is routine in our world of militarism and imperialism, where the corporate industrial complex will stop at nothing to get what they want in terms of power over people who are just trying to live a peaceful life and trying basically to consolidate political, economic hegemony. This is a strategic part of the world now that the United States is pivoting toward China in its military policy. So it's really sad, actually, to be here and witness this tragedy firsthand, watching the gradual taking down of agricultural areas, seeing the divisions among families. I spoke with at least one activist who is pretty much alone now. None of her family agrees with what she's doing, and she's essentially been shunned. These are the casualties of global imperialism, and unfortunately, it's happened everywhere, and it's just quite an experience to be right in the middle of it happening. So I've definitely learned a lot. I continue to learn a lot, and it's been a really moving experience for me. So I have a lot to process.
Okay. Hi, I'm Larry Kirshner. We're at Gangjeong Village on Jeju Island in the Republic of South Korea. I have several connections to Korea. I adopted twin daughters from Korea in 1980. I was here in Korea in 2006 with the Veterans for Peace delegation to stand with the farmers in Pyeongtaek who were being thrown off their farms in order to increase the size of a U.S. military base. And I was invited to come here to Jeju Island a couple of years ago, but I had another trip planned at the time and it didn't happen. So when Father Bix said he was getting a group together again, I jumped on it. The dedication you see in the people here, especially the women, seem to have a focus on continuing on, even though the base is being built. They don't seem to let that deter their spirit, and they are out there every day blocking the gates. They have developed quite a community with different things they do here in community on the island. And I think even though the evidence is that the base is going to be built, I think they still go there every day with the expectation that they're going to stop it. And I really admire their spirit.
평화 백세 선 진리가 삶을 자유롭게 한다는 말씀을 마음에 새기며 첫 번째 절을 올립니다. 끊임없는 자기 성찰이 인계의 첫 걸음을 펴며 두 번째 절을 올립니다. 삶의 근거를 모르고 사는 나의 어리석음을 돌아보며 네 번째 절을 올립니다. 스스로의 삶을 일상적으로 살지 못한 점을 반성하며 네 번째 절을 올립니다. 생명위기, 평화위기라는 현대 문명의 현실을 직시하며 다섯 번째 절을 올립니다. 반생명, 인간의 모순과 이념이 내 안의 연어적 세계관에서 비롯된다는 것을 가슴에 새기며 여섯 번째 절을 올립니다. 소유는 또 다른 소유를 낳고 전쟁은 또 다른 전쟁을 낳을 뿐입니다.
So my name is Myra Leslie, and I am part of the peace delegation that was organized by Father Bix here in Jeju, Korea, in Gangjeong village. I came because I had heard from Father Bix and Gilberto after their last visit here of the very deep resistance that's going on here in the village to a military naval base that's being built. And I wanted to deepen my own experience of resistance, nonviolence resistance. And here there's a huge context of faith that's intertwined with the resistance, and it's a extremely unique thing for me. I haven't experienced it before, although I work in many interfaith groups and I do peace walking on interfaith groups. I've never seen a actual non-violent civil disobedience action that's a liturgy. So although I knew that was going to happen when I got here, I had no idea what the community was like. I guess what has surprised me is not only the action that they take, the daily, persistent, consistent, faithful action that's a creation of this place, but the community here that's powerful, really powerful. Got people who have a strength and a purpose that's core and fundamental and not fragmented like so many people that like myself and moving in all different directions, trying to get a lot of things done. There's a real sort of focus here that's extraordinary and inspiring.
우리에게 당하고 있는 노동자를 위해서 여기서 봉헌됩니다. 다 같이 인사에 마음 모아주시기 바랍니다. 형제 자매 여러분, 구원의 신비를 합당하게 거행하기 위하여 우리의 삶을, 우리의 나약함을, 우리의 부족함을 반성합시다. 전능하신 하느님과 형제들에게 고백하오니
생각과 말과 행위로 죄를 많이 지었으며 잦은 의무를 소홀히 하였나이다. 다시오 대다시오 저의 큰 다시옵니다. 그러므로 간절히 바라오니 평생 성령이신 성모 마리아와 모든 천사와 성인과 형제들은 저를 위하여 하느님께 들어주소서.
전능하신 하느님, 저희에게 자비를 베푸시어 죄를 용서하시고 영원한 생명으로 이끌어소서.
아멘.
주님, 자비를 베푸소서.
주님 자비를 베푸소서.
그리스도님, 자비를 베푸소서.
그리스도님 자비를 베푸소서.
주님, 자비를 베푸소서.
주님 자비를 베푸소서.
기도합시다. 주님, 주님의 가족을 자유로이 지켜주시고 천상은 충만을 바라는 저희를 끊임없이 보호해 주소서. 성부와 성령과 함께 천주로서 영원히 살아계시며 다스리시는 성자 우리 주 예수 그리스도를 통하여 비나이다.
지금부터 말씀의 전례가 시작됩니다. 사도 바오로의 필레몬서 말씀입니다. 사랑하는 그대여, 나는 그대의 사랑으로 큰 기쁨과 격려를 받았습니다. 그대 덕분에 성도들이 마음의 생기를 얻었기 때문입니다. 그래서 나는 그리스도 안에서 큰 확신을 가지고 그대가 마땅히 해야 할 일을 명령하지도 않지만 사랑 때문에 오히려 부탁을 하려고 합니다. 나 바울은 늙은이인데다가 이제는 그리스도 예수님께서 이런 내가 목숨에서 얻은 내 아들 오네시모스의 일로 그대에게 부탁하는 것입니다. 그가 전에는 그대에게 쓸모없는 사람이었지만 이제는 그대에게도 나에게도 쓸모있는 사람이 되었습니다. 나는 내 심장과 같은 글을 그대에게 빌려 보냅니다. 그대의 능력해서 때문에 내가 감옥에 갇혀있는 동안 그대에게 나를 시중들게 한 생각도 있었지만 그대의 생각 없이는 아무것도 하고 싶지 않았습니다. 그대의 손에는 강요가 아니라 잘도 이루어지게 하려는 것입니다. 그가 잠시 그대에게서 떨어져 있었던 것은 아마도 그를 영원히 지켜갈 수 없다고 생각합니다. 가운데 있으세요. 그대가 나를 주인으로 여긴다면 나를 기다려주시고 그가 그대에게 생수를 느꼈거나 빚을 진 것이 있거든 내 앞으로 보상하십시오. 나 바오로가 나를 기다렸습니다. 내가 기다렸습니다. 그렇다고 나에게 이들의 그대가 일단은 사실을 말하려는 것이 아닙니다. 그렇습니다. 형제여, 나는 주님 안에서 그대의 복을 이루려고 합니다. 그리스도 안에서 내 마음을 승리를 얻게 해주십시오. 주님의 말씀입니다.
감사합니다.
행복하여라 야곱의 하느님을 구원자로 모시기를
행복하여라 야곱의 하느님을
I have several questions about the anti-base struggle, and if you want to, ask more questions to him, so that's why this meeting was, prepared. So yesterday, Sasha made a presentation about the success examples of anti-base struggle. For example, Puerto Rico, Hawaii, Kauai Island, Kauai, and Putema base, and also Putema base, and also
Let's talk about Guam.
Guam. Yeah, Pegat Island. Yes. And then, so could you please briefly talk about the summary of your presentation yesterday, and then maybe we can process more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the summary of what I said yesterday is just that, resistance can work. That there are successes. I would say all of the successes are partial successes. Right? They, didn't maybe win everything they wanted to, but they have certainly affected the way the military does business and where they do business. Yeah. And I gave examples, particularly focusing on Vieques, Puerto Rico, that where there was a protest movement that started and was able to get the U.S. military completely off the ground. And so, and kind of the things I tried to say are the common things that you see in the places where there are victories is that usually there's two things that happen. The first is that there was an organization that did education and built solidarity and just kept at it. We're every day doing a little bit, sometimes with big protests, sometimes small, but they just kept working every day. Right? They kept an organization together. So that's the first thing that these places all had. The second thing they had, and I will add that first thing, often these organizations were very small. Sometimes it was a few people. And then the second thing that happened in these places is there was all of a sudden, there was a sudden change. Often a tragedy associated with the base, or just a change in kind of the politics or the context. And when that tragedy or that change happened, this organization was able to take advantage of that moment because they had done the education, they had done the solidarity building. People could very quickly join into organized struggle, and then things happened very fast.
Was that an ordinary thing that there was some incident or there was some, was that a pretty common thing in the different places?
Yeah, I think so. Often it wasn't something that the activists created and chose. It was an opportunity that happened, oftentimes because of a horrible, tragic incident.
Are you talking about, for example, the rape of the young girl in Okinawa?
Yes. And the fact that and there was a helicopter crash at the university happened in a relatively short time period. And it just changed the political mood on the island where the protests really just ballooned.
부사장 출입로를 방해하시게 되면 형법 314조 업무방해로 허가처를 받을 수 있습니다. 아울러 차량이 통하는 교통사고를 염두했습니다. 부사장 출입로를 막지 마시고 안전한 곳으로 이동하시기 바랍니다. 이동하는 선수 복잡한 선수들이 하겠습니다. 이동하십시오.
We shall not yield. We shall not yield. Someday, oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall.
북쪽에서 지금 차량이 나가고 있습니다. 이쪽에 서 계신 분께서는 이동하시기 바랍니다.
We shall live in peace. We shall live in peace today. Oh, deep in my heart, we are